Kings FM 88.5, just for you. From the latest news to your favorite tunes, we've got your back morning, night, and afternoon. Join our family, connect with your crew. Kings FM 88.5, just for you.
From the News and Current Affairs Department of Royal Communications Incorporated, good morning. Welcome to King's News Broom, 45 minutes of news about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of our one world. Today is Wednesday, February 4, 2026. My name is Cornelius Johnson, presenting first the headlines. Dozens of citizens to be displaced in 72nd today, Wednesday, as government evicts residents to reclaim land for armed forces of Liberia. But Maserati County District 5 Representative Priscilla Cooper expressed disappointment and called for citizens' fair treatment. Did Finance and Development Planning Minister Augustine Kafwan lie about reversing harmonization? Former Finance Minister Samia Twe debunks Kafwan. A section says LCC, GAC, and other salaries were never harmonized. Satan mass demolition victims petition National Legislature for intervention accused Montserrat County District 8 Representative Prince Toll of taking bribe from businessman Eric Nangwe to enforce the demolition. Away from home, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has hit out at Eritrea's army for committing atrocities during the 2-year war in the northern Tigray region, which ended in 2022. And former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, have agreed to testify in congressional investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The news bulletin, voices of the newsmakers, our international development are all packaged in this edition of the program. Up next is the bulletin of news with Kwame Brown.
Tensions are mounting as the government, through the armed forces of Liberia, announced plans to evict residents at the 72nd military barrack. The government in recent weeks have been pressing forward to reclaim lands it belong to the barrack, commonly known as Camp Raymond, which is believed to have been occupied by citizens. Several structures, including schools, businesses, homes, and worship centers, have been built in the area by citizens, with most of them claiming legal ownership of the land and vowing to resist any demolition effort by the government, despite a renewed evacuation order issued by the Ministry of National Defense. On January 19, 2026, the Ministry of National Defense issued a 14 days ultimatum for all illegal occupants to vacate the barracks or risk eviction. In the release, the ministry describes the ultimatum as a final 14 days for all illegal occupants. The directive was issued as the AFL prepares to reclaim the facility for military rehabilitation and expansion, a move authorities say is critical to national security. And meanwhile, Moserado County District Number 5 Representative Priscilla Cooper has expressed total disappointment in the government's handling of the 72nd buried and residence land issues, which is expected to make dozens of citizens homeless. She expressed the disappointment Tuesday after the communication which called on the plenary of the House of Representatives to cite authorities of the Ministries of National Defense and the Armed Forces of Liberia was dismissed. Expressing that's addressing reporters, Representative Cooper warned government against displaying the dignity of citizens in land matters, noting that land issues must be dealt with properly, using all procedures to ensure that everyone involved is respected and given good treatment. The most Morado County District 5 representative also wants the government establish the fight in the 72nd Barrack and residence land disputes. Former Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Minister Samuel Toy, has sharply debunked Finance Minister Augustin Ganfuan's claims of the government reversing harmonizations for key government institutions. Toward in a detailed policy rebuttal pointed out that the key integrity institutions, so especially the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission and the General Auditing Commission, salaries were never harmonized in the sense implied by Minister Gamfua. According to him, these institutions already operated under a single and system prior to harmonization reforms, describing Gamfuan's claims as technically flawed and politically misleading. The former ministers of finance added that as integrity institution, LCCs and GSA are now subject to the same controls as over 100 entities under the central government. 12 further challenged the government's forming of salary adjustment as a reversal of harmonization, stressing that reversing harmonization is fundamentally different from increasing wages. Several victims of Seatown mice demolitions have petitioned the national legislature to urgently intervene in what they describe as unfair destruction of their properties following a recent court ruling. The demolition, which resulted to the loss of homes, worship centers, businesses, among many others, has sparked major concerns as many have accused the government of displaying blind. The affected residents are also accusing the Mossorado County District Number 8 Representative Prince Stores of allegedly accepting a bribe from businessman Eric Nangbe to facilitate enforcement of court's order. Reading the petition at the Capitol building on Tuesday, the spokesperson of the group characterized the demolition as unlawful. She maintained that the affected properties were legally acquired and as accused businessman as Eric Nangbe of using the district lawmaker and the court system to unlawfully orchestrate their eviction. The Ministers of National Defense has reaffirmed government's commitment to a united, coordinated, and proactive approach to national security and regional peace. Minister Gadeline George said, through shared responsibility and a common purpose, the government will continue to safeguard the nation and secure the peace for future of our generations to come. She made a statement during the when she gave the closing remarks at the 69th Armed Forces Day Symposium organized by the Armed Forces of Liberia in Congo Town on Tuesday. Opposition Alternative National Congress political leader Alexander Combs has denied a long-standing allegations labeling him he is a gay. Combs, who appeared furious over the allegations, describes it as politically motivated, aimed at damaging his reputation in the Liberian border politics. Speaking on OKFM Monday, Combs maintained that the claim is part of a wider pattern of political propaganda that often used during campaigns to distract voters from real national issues. The ANC political leader further mentioned how he has been married for over 42 years. For several years, Combs has struggled to clear himself from speculations of him being a gay. During the Monday's radio interview, he accused supporters of the Coalition for Democratic Change and the ruling United Parties of deliberately spreading the allegations as elections draw closer. Renowned human rights lawyers and political leader of the Liberian People's Party, Councillor Tiawan Konglo, is calling on the Bwakai Kun administration to turn the National Housing Bank building into a public high school. Councillor Gonglo noted that the move will help ease overcrowding in public schools across Mosserado County. Speaking on challenges affecting public schools and students monthly in Monrovia, Councillor Gonglo said the initiative, if implemented by the national government, would expand access to the affordable education for children from low-income families and help address constraints facing the public education system. According to him, the structure, which is currently serving as a temporary shelter and for displaced persons and built for the Monrovia City Police, would better serve as educational need for Liberian children and contribute to educational advancement and the country's educational setup. Councillor Gonglot emphasized that the building was constructed with taxpayers' money and stressed that ordinary citizens, particularly low-income families, would benefit from its use. House Speaker Richard Kuhn has constituted a conference committee following a communication from Liberian Senate aimed at harmonizing the consolidated report of the Joint Public Accounts and Audit Committee on the Central Bank of Liberia. The conference committee, chaired by House's Public Accounts Committee Chair, Representative Clarice Gar, would work with the Liberian Senate on harmonizing the consolidated report of the Joint Public Account and Audit Committee on the Central Bank of Liberia, according to the communications from the Senate. After careful scrutiny of the consolidated report earlier transmitted from that for concurrence, it deemed it necessary to request a conference committee to further synchronize the fundings, particularly the ones arisen from the General Audit Commission's, that's GAC, audit for the Central Bank of Liberia. The communications indicated that the objective of the conference committee is to arrive at a unified positions of the legislature that will be acceptable to both chambers before the report is submitted to the president. In a related development, Nimba County District 4 Representative Nyan Flomo has written the plenary of the House of Representatives requesting that occurs to summon authorities of the Liberia Electricity Corporation to provide comprehensive report for electricity distribution. Speaking in session Tuesday, Representative Flomo complained about services provided by the LEC, adding that many communities are without street lights despite LEC being available. According to him, in many cases, individuals, including lawmakers, are compelled to pre-finance what could be done by the corporation, including positioning it as transmitter and other basic things to ensure the electricity is extended in their communities. He also called for clear social benefits of communities in avoiding contracts of communities' electrification. Meanwhile, following the reading of Representative Nyan Flomo communication in session Tuesday by the Chief Clyde Madrid Sion, several lawmakers expressed mixed views. The executive director of At-Risk Youth of the United Methodist Church, Reverend Caleb Duma, has warned that Liberia risks electing a drugs abuser as president if the country's growing drugs crisis is not urgently addressed. Speaking with King's News Tuesday, Reverend Duma claimed that millions of Liberians have been affected by substance abuse and are languishing in ghettos and graveyards across the country. According to him, the numbers of at-risk youth in Liberia continues to rise daily, cautioning the failure to adequately tackle the situation would have serious consequences for the nation's future. Reverend Duma stressed the urgency of coping the influx and spread of drugs across the country and called on the government to allocate a significant portions of the national budget toward combating what it described as national epidemic. He highlighted the contributions of his institution in rehabilitating affected youth in Mosserado County and surrounding areas. And political tensions continue to mount between former Bon County Representative, that's District Number 5, Edward Kafia, and District Number 3 Representative Josiah Marvin Cool over political support for the Senate seat of the county far ahead of the 2029 general and presidential elections. Amid the tensions, Representative Cool has called on his supporters not to support Edward Kafia for any political position in the county, described him as a child of the devil. Cole stated that anyone who believes and supports him would have no business to do with Kafia in his political endeavors. Former Representative Kafia, who contested against Bon County Senator Johnny Kekwe in 2023, came second with rumors that he is intending to recontest the senatorial seat in 2029. Representative Koo has accused him of attempting on his life when both of them served in the offices of the as office staff of the offices of former Vice President Joe Howard Taylor and then Senate of Brown County.
Many thanks to Kwame Brown for the news bulletin. The news bulletin is a regular feature here on King's Newsroom. Indeed, if you just join us, a reminder you're listening to King's Newsroom, 45 minutes of news about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of our one world. Today's Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. My name is Cornelius Johnson, presenting one of our top stories. This did Finance and Development Planning Minister Augustine Gafuan lie about reversing harmonization. Former Finance Minister Samuel Twe debunks Gafuan. Section says LACC, GAC, and others' salaries were never harmonized. Let's now bring you voices of the newsmakers. Today's development tensions are mounting as the government, through the armed forces of Liberia, announced plans to evict residents of 72nd military barracks on today. The government in recent weeks have been pressing forward to reclaim land it says belonged to the barrack commonly known as Cam Rhine Road, which is believed to have been occupied by citizens. However, residents who have lived in the area for years, some since the end of Liberia's civil war, say they will not leave without what they consider fair relocation arrangements. The residents express frustration and fear, arguing that the government's action, though legal, ignores the social and humanitarian consequences of mass displacement. We apologize for that wrong except. Meanwhile, Maserado County District 5 Representative Priscilla Cooper has expressed total disappointment in the government's handling of the 72nd barracks and resident land issues, which is expected to make dozens of citizens homeless. She expressed disappointment Tuesday after her communication, which called on the plenary of the House of Representatives to sack authorities of the Ministry of National Defense and the Armed Forces of Liberia, was dismissed. Addressing reporters, Representative Cooper warned government against downplaying the dignity of citizens in land matters, noting that land issues must be dealt with properly using all procedures to ensure that everyone involved is respected and given good treatment. Here now is Representative Priscilla Cooper.
My issue is the surrounding paperwork. You understand? We represent people. My responsibility is to show the dignity of the land. Equally so, my responsibility is also, the welfare of our people that we represent is paramount. And so the issue of land, we all know what's happening in this country. There are people who are claiming those properties surrounding, portion of the properties surrounding the barrack. And for them, all we need to do is to establish the fact. If it is for private citizen involvement, we want to exercise eminent domain. I'm saying we because I'm part of government. want to exercise eminent domain, there are steps to follow to exercise so that we take those, those places. If the places are not for them, there are also steps to follow. Even if someone is on your land, restore some dignity. Don't just judge them off and carry. Today is the last day. And so I brought this letter on the floor so that we would call those people involved, from the security apparatus. I understand this is a sensitive issue. And so I wasn't requesting that we come in plenary for open plenary. Call them, we run our committees in this house. Call them in committee room. Just understand the plan of our people is very essential. And to that is missing, and I'm so disappointed. I'm really disappointed. And I just spoke with the speaker. He's going to correct whatever mistake he made and make sure the dignity of our people is restored.
Did he give you any reason how he did to correct?
It's a sensitive matter, I understand, but it shouldn't have gone away. Give us the opportunity to speak, especially when you represent people. People carry different narratives. And I've been having a couple of meetings, and because I'm not going to the press or not saying anything to the city like, oh, she doesn't care for us. But when it comes here, we represent these people. The plan needs to be spoken of, and that's what we're trying to do. But I hope we will correct the situation and make sure some dignity.
She's a representative of Montserrat County, District 5, Priscilla Cooper. They're speaking to reporters at her Capitol Building office on yesterday. Former Finance and Development Planning Minister Samuel Twe has sharply debunked Finance Minister Augustine Kafwan claims of the government reversing harmonization for key government institutions. Twe, in a detailed policy report, pointed out that key integrity institutions, specifically Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, the General Auditing Commission, salaries were never harmonized in the sense implied by Minister Kafwan. According to him, these institutions already operated under a single pay system prior to harmonization reforms, describing Kafwan's claim as technically flawed and politically misleading. On Monday, Minister Kafwan noted that the government has reversed harmonization of LACC, GAC, Chief Justice, Associate Justices, and judges at the Temple of Justice. He also named employees at the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency with increased salaries, adding that the government is reserving or reversing harmonization carefully.
Because you push me, I'll be pushed to say some things. We have reversed that word you use. I don't like to use it. You love the word harmonization. We have reversed harmonization at the LACC. This year, this budget, 2026, harmonization is being reversed at the GAC. This year, this budget.
Talk again clearly.
Several victims of Satan mass demolition have petitioned the National Legislature to urgently intervene in what they described as unfair destruction of their properties following a recent court ruling. The demolition, which resulted to the loss of homes, worship centers, businesses, among many others, have sparked major concerns as many have accused the government of playing blind eye. The affected residents are also accusing Montserrat County District 8 Representative Prince Tool of allegedly accepting bribe from businessman Eric Nangwe to facilitate enforcement of the court's order. Reading the petition at the Capitol Building on Tuesday, the spokesperson for the group characterized the demolition as unlawful. She maintained that affected properties were illegally acquired and accused businessman Eric Nangwe of using the district lawmaker and the court system to unlawfully orchestrate their eviction. Now, residents of Seatown.
We, the unassigned citizens and lawful owner occupants of private property located 5th and 4th Street Single, Seatown, respectfully submit this petition to formally complain about the wrongful and unlawful demolition of our properties carried out on January 31st, 2026 by Eric Nangwe through the order of the court. Background of the matter: that we, the lawful owner occupants of the property, having acquired some through purchase, inherited, lawful occupants supported by valid documents, including these tax receipt or other legal instruments. that on about some properties were demolished without lawful notice, due process, court order, or adequate competition, contrary to the law, Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. That prior to the demolition, no written notice was served on us. Court order was presented on the same day for demolition. No opportunity to be heard was granted. No resettlement, no compensation plan was communicated. That the demolition have caused us loss of home is businesses, destruction of our personal belongings, financial hardship, psychological and emotional stress, displacement of families, including women and children, and elderly, including our children that were in school, will not go to school because of long distance education. Parents age tuition, and that children will no longer go to school because of school were breaking down. Legal base of our complaint. The action complaint of violation. The Constitution of Liberia, which guarantees the rights of property and due process, established principles of natural justice and fair hearing, relevant land, urban planning, and human rights law. Our prayer relief assault. In view of the foregoing, we humbly pray to our office to investigate the circumstances surrounding the demolition.
The petitioners further argue that the demolition was carried out without adequate notice, lawful compensation, or transparent communication prior to the destruction of their homes and properties. According to the group, their eviction has resulted in substantial property losses and has caused significant psychological and emotional distress among those affected. They at the same time rejected the involvement of Montserrat County District 8 Representative Prince Tool, chair of the House Committee on Claims and Petition, for receiving their petition.
Liberia values cooperation with ECOWAS, the African Union, the United Nations, and other partners.
Several victims of the Satan mass demolition there rejecting the involvement of Montserrat County District 8 Representative Prince Tool, who is chair on the House's Committee on Claims and Petition, from receiving their petition there on yesterday at the Capitol building. To this development now, the Ministry of National Defense has reaffirmed government's commitment to a united, coordinated, and proactive approach to national security and regional peace. Minister Geraldine George said through shared responsibility and common purpose, the government will continue to safeguard the nation and secure a peaceful future for generations to come. She made a statement when she gave the closing remarks at the 69th Armed Forces Day Symposium organized by the Armed Forces of Liberia in Conkertown on Tuesday.
Liberia values cooperation with ECOWAS, the African Union, the United Nations, and other bilateral partners as we strengthen our collective security efforts. As we move forward, let us ensure that the ideas shared at this symposium translate into lasting actions. We must strengthen coordination mechanisms, invest in capacity building, and institutionalize cooperation across our security sectors. Our success will be measured not by speeches, but by safer communities, stronger institutions, and more secure Liberia. Liberia remains committed to peace, stability, and the rule of law. However, we must also recognize that drug trafficking and organized crime pose growing threat to national security. These crimes exploit our borders, our institutions, and our communities. They weaken governance, they fuel corruption, and they endanger our youth. Addressing this thing is not only a law enforcement responsibility, it is a national security responsibility. Let me conclude by reaffirming the government of Liberia committed to a unified, coordinated, and proactive approach to national issues. Together, through shared responsibility and common purpose, we will continue to safeguard our nation and secure a peaceful future for our generation to come. And that lies with each and every one of us in this room.
For his part, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Major General Davison Fuller, underscored the importance of strengthening bond between the security sector and the civilian population in the collective pursuit of peace, stability, and national development. He noted that the AFL remains resolute in its constitutional mandate to defend the nation and work collaboratively with all stakeholders in safeguarding a collective future.
The Armed Forces of Liberia remains resolute in its constitutional mandate to defend the nation and work collaboratively with all stakeholders in safeguarding our collective future. Drugs trafficking, organized crime, and other non-traditional threats do not respect institutional borders. They exploit the gaps, weaken communities, and undermine governance. Confronting them required unity of purpose, seamless coordination, and sustained collaboration across all security sector and civilian institutions. Against this backdrop, today's symposium topic, building an effective inter-agency framework, combating drugs trafficking and organized crime through coordinated national security effort, is both timely and strategic. It offers us an opportunity to engage in honest dialogue, share experience, and identify practical measures to strengthen our collective response. Your attendance today demonstrates a sheer commitment to secure Liberia together. It is my sincere hope that the discussion from this symposium will generate actionable insight and strengthen interagency partnership well beyond the Armed Forces Day 2026.
His Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of Liberia, Major General Davison Fuller, earlier listened to the Minister of National Defense, Geraldine George. They're speaking at a one-day symposium at the 69th Armed Forces Day organized by the Armed Forces of Liberia in Conkertown on yesterday. Indeed, if you just joined us, a reminder, you are listening to King's Newsroom, 45 minutes of news about Liberia and the rest of our one world. Our top stories this morning: dozens of citizens to be displaced in 72nd today, Wednesday, as government evicts residents to reclaim land for Armed Forces of Liberia. But Montserrat County District 5 Representative Priscilla Cooper expressed a disappointment and call for citizens fair treatment. Did Finance and Development Planning Minister Augustine Kafan lie about reversing harmonization? Former Finance Minister Samuel Twe debunks Kafan's assertion, says LCC, GSC, and other salaries were never harmonized. Satan Mars demolition victims petition National Legislature for intervention, accused Montserrat County District 8 Representative Prince Toll of taking bribe from businessman Eric Nangwe to enforce the demolition. Away from home, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has hit out at Eritrea's army for committing atrocities during the 2-year war in the northern Tigray region, which ended in 2022. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, have agreed to testify in congressional investigation into late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. We take a very short break. When we come back, we'll bring you more developments on the program. Many thanks for being there and welcome back. To this development now, opposition Alternative National Congress political leader Alexander Cummings has denied a long-standing allegations labeling him a gay. Cummings will appear furious over the allegations describes it as politically motivated, aimed at damaging his reputation in the Liberian body politics. Speaking on OKFM recently, Cummings maintained that the claim is part of a wider pattern of political propaganda often used during campaigns to distract voters from real national issues. The ANC political leader further mentioned how he has been married for over 42 years. For several years, Cummings has struggled to clear himself from speculations of him being a gay. During the radio interview, he accused supporters of the Coalition for Democratic Change and the ruling Unity Party of deliberately spreading their allegations as elections draw closer.
So I'm going to maybe use an abusive word on your program. Sorry.
No, please.
And I'll not use it again. I had to say that, but now it's the BS maybe to clean it up a bit. But it's complete nonsense. We just talked about Teresa and I, marriage over 40 plus years, children, grandchildren. I talk about my Christian values, growing up in a Christian home, my father, Episcopal priest. That is just complete nonsense. It's political. The guy who started making up that stuff, and then I'll talk about the parts of it, but the guy who made it and started to push it was a seditious, right? And so the CDC pushed it, but UP pushed it even more. It comes up kind of political season is when they use it. And I always say it's a kind of the political class, the people that benefit Liberia from the way it is today and don't want it to change. They use that kind of spurious, sickening act in politics that has bothered me more than that accusation. Because politics is politics. People make up stuff. I won't use the other word I use. But it's complete nonsense, complete BS. But it's not an easy job for anybody. And, to pretend the job is easy, right? So yes, fixing and growing the economy, creating jobs. We got many challenges. We can talk about agriculture, education, health. But this thing called the economy or job creation for businesses to grow and to thrive and create jobs is the most critical thing so that the average Liberian can feed himself.
He's the political leader of our opposition Alternative National Congress, Alexander Cummings, speaking when he served as a guest on our OKFM recently. Renowned human rights lawyer and political leader of the Liberian People's Party, Councillor Tiawan Gonglo, is calling on the Brakakon administration to turn to National Housing Bank building into a public high school. Councillor Gonglo said that the move will help ease overcrowding in public schools across Montserrat County, speaking on challenges affecting public schools and students. Recently in Monrovia, Councillor Gonglo said the initiative, if implemented by the national government, will expand access to affordable education for children from low-income families and help address constraints facing the public education system. According to him, the structure, which is currently serving as a temporary shelter for displaced persons and base for the Monrovia City Police, will better serve the educational needs of Liberian children and contribute to educational advancements in the country's educational sector. Here now is political leader Tiawan Gonglo.
There is no government high school in Central Monrovia. I'm therefore calling upon the president to think out of the box, to use this building that was meant for housing bank. There's no housing bank there. The people's money was used to construct this building. It is occupied by displaced people and city police have been there. The more useful way of the government using this building is to put a school there. There is a school on the block of Monrovia Central High School. I'm calling upon the government to reopen Monrovia Central High School and put it here. This building can hold thousands of poor people children to go to high school. That is what government should do. That's the best way of using this building. The Monrovia Central High School was first opened on a top at Charlotte Talbot. Don't turn it to Monrovia Central High School, and it was being operated in private building. The last building was operated in is the building that is now being used by Codex, former Total, as its headquarters down Butcher Quarter. But here is a building. The best use for this building is to put a government school there for Liberian poor people children to have access to education. That is my appeal today. I ask all Liberians to support me for the government to put a government high school in this building. Thank you very much.
He's the political leader of Liberia People's Party, renowned lawyer Tiawan Gonglo. Nemba County District 4 Representative Jan Flomo has written the plenary of the House of Representatives requesting that AUKUS body to summon authorities of the Liberia Electricity Corporation to provide comprehensive reports on electricity distribution. Speaking in session Tuesday, Representative Flomo complained about services provided by LEC, adding that many communities are without streetlights despite LEC being available. According to him, in many cases, individuals, including lawmakers, are compared to pre-finance what should be done by the corporation, including purchasing of transmitter and other basic things to ensure that electricity is extended in their communities. We hope to bring you that except during our subsequent newscast. To this development now, the executive director of Adways Youth of the United Methodist Church, Reverend Caleb Noman, has warned that Liberia risks electing a drug abuser as president if the country's growing drug crisis is not urgently addressed. Speaking with Kings FM Tuesday, Reverend Doman claimed that millions of Liberians have been affected by substance abuse and are languishing in ghettos and graveyards across the country. According to him, the number of Adway youth in Liberia continues to rise daily, cautioning that failure to adequately tackle the situation could have serious consequences for the nation's future. Here now is Reverend Doman.
We got about 1 million plus people on drugs. 70% of your population is young people. We need to find a way to direct 70% of our resources to developing 70% of our population. If 20% of that 70 is dying before our very eyes, we have to preserve 20% of the 70% of the resources to keep them alive. What am I saying? Drugs is killing us. Drug is killing our future right before us. It's supposed to be a pandemic. We're supposed to tackle it with some urgency. Unless we do that, we are in trouble. I want you to think about this. With the population, more than 1 million people on drugs, we are going closer and closer to the place where we will elect a drug law as president. Because if 1 million people vote for one person, this is what will happen. More than that, 40 of our lawmakers might be elected, who are doing drug business. Half of our senators, you see how we're going down the drain? We need to come up in an urgent way to do this.
Political tensions continue to mount between former Bond County District 5 Representative Edward Kafia and District 3 Representative Josiah Marvin Cole over political support for the Senate seat of the county far ahead of 2029 general and presidential elections. Amid the tensions, Representative Marvin Cole has called on his supporters not to support Edward Kafia for any political position in the county, describing him as a child of the devil. Cole stated that anyone who believes and supports him should have no business to do with Kafia in his political endeavors.
So, Kafia and myself have been very close. I have given him 2-time forgiveness. And he seems to be that he wants to be a child of the devil that does not repent. There is a story that I will shut the talk about, and I'll give Kafia the opportunity to come and explain. If he doesn't come back to talk, the day I appear on the radio, I will speak it. I want you, the journalists, to go to Kafia. When Honorable Marvin Cole took sick in the offices of Senator Taylor, he got paralyzed for 31 days. He could not walk. The mark is on him. He's crippled because of that. What role did you play? The church, they took him. When you went to the church, what were the happenings at that church? What happened? The 300 women and men took up and beat behind you and say you were the one who were responsible.
He's Representative Josiah Marvin Cole of Bon County Electoral District number 3. They're speaking. Across the border now, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has hit out at Eritrea's army for committing atrocities during the 2-year war in the North Tigray region, which ended in 2022. Eritrean forces fought alongside the Ethiopian army against local Tigrayan fighters for control of Tigray, which borders Eritrea. In an address to Parliament, Abiy admitted for the first time that Eritrean troops had massacred people in Aksum, allegations Eritrea has previously denied following reports of mass killing that took place in the historic city over 2 days in November 2022. It is the latest twist in the volatile relationship between the two Horn of Africa neighbors who flip-flop from being friends to enemies. And former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, have agreed to testify in the congressional investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It comes days after or before the vote on whether to hold the couple in criminal contempt for refusing to appear before the House Oversight Committee after a month-long standoff. Bill Clinton was acquitted with Epstein, who died in prison in 2019 but has denied knowledge of his sex offending and says he cut off contact 2 decades ago. Former President Clinton will appear for a deposition on February 27, 2026, and former Secretary Hillary Clinton will appear on February 26, 2026. To end this news, here once again our top stories. Dozens of citizens to be displaced in 72nd on today, Wednesday, as government evicts residents to reclaim land for armed forces of Liberia. But Montserrat County District 5 Representative Priscilla Cooper expressed disappointment and called for citizens' fair treatment. Did Finance and Development Planning Minister Augustine Kafon lie about reversing harmonization? Former Finance Minister Samuel Tue debunks Kafon assertions, says LCC, GSC, and other salaries were never harmonized. Satan mass demolition victims petition National Legislature for intervention, accused Montserrat County District 8 Representative Prince Tolls of taking bribe from businessman Eric Nangwe to enforce the demolition. Away from home, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has hit out at Eritrea's army for committing atrocities during the 2-year war in the North Tigray region, which ended in 2022. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, have agreed to testify in the congressional investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Many thanks to all of our contributors, editors, and reporters who help in making this edition of King's News Broom Sources. For more news and information, do join us at 1 p.m. this afternoon, or better still, at 6 p.m. for a fresh edition of the program. Many thanks to Kwame Brown, who brought us our news bulletin on behalf of the entire team. My name is Cornelius Johnson. I presented. Thanks to you for listening and watching. Good morning.